online, and it's, do you use Postmates at all? Like for delivery services?
No, not really.
Well, if you ever do, it's Eat Up, and you get $12 off, like, of anything. So I got breakfast for free this morning. It was pretty badass.
There you go. And I'll get you a small bottle of wine or something too. Now we're talking.
Dude, it's on point. It works out.
Yesterday, for the first time in like months, I felt the need to have some sheesh again. I've been a beer guy all freaking summer, but I don't know, man. Something about football being back. It just takes me. I think it's that, and then just more than anything, I've been trying to work out more. And I feel like after you get a good workout in, like that, downing like 10 beers is a little bit less appealing than just going through a little bit of sheesh. So some mix of football and working out has me just drowning in wine. I'm not quite sure the overall process, but we're here.
Dude, I love that. No, I mean, I'm a beer guy for certain points, but during the summertime, I kind of like kick it out just because, I'm cool with having a winter coat, but during the summertime, I live on the beach. I can't be down in too many beers,
I can't be sitting on the beach with a glass of Pinot in my hand. I'm going to get some weird looks at that point. No offense to anyone that does that. We're already getting there pretty close with seltzers and stuff anyway. But yeah, man, give me a Big Wave, or I'm drinking Land Shark right now. That's one of my favorite beach beers too.
Yeah, I actually had a Pacifico. What was it? Last night, the night before that, I had a couple Pacificos. I had some tacos and shit. So
they have those everywhere in Cincinnati. I just moved here a couple of weeks ago, and I see Pacifico everywhere now. And I'm just like, great, good beer, usually pretty fucking cheap.
What brought you to Cincinnati?
PFF. They're like, hey, Ian, do you want to do your same job but record in the studio and we'll pay you more money? And I was like, yes,
That's
I will.
Sick.
It's
so badass.
I was in Columbus before, so it's an hour and a half, hour 45 down the road. When I went from Roto World to PFF, I moved back to Columbus, and that was from Connecticut to Columbus. So that move was quite a bit more difficult. So still got some, got my boxes behind me and shit here in the old office, but overall, it's much better being in the studio when you can. Yeah,
no, that's cool. I didn't realize that you were that close from Canton when you shut up. How did the end of the auction draft finish?
Oh shit, that was fun, man. I think I actually did okay last year. So first of all, you need to do live auctions. That's what I figured out here, because that was my second one ever. First auction I did was online, and I started drinking in the previous snake draft. So that was probably my first mistake. And I just wanted to screw with people, man. Like I remember going like dollar for dollar with Zeke, and we were in the 50s. And I was just like, fuck it, $70. Like give me Zeke. I don't care. I was in the same draft with Pat Kareem. Always does awesome work, but he had a freaking hard on for Ronald Jones last year. Maybe he still does. But anyway, as soon as Ronald Jones got nominated and Pat was in this league, I was just like, I'm not leaving this draft without Ronald Jones. So I bet up Rojo like 25 or 26 and got him anyway. So like I was just completely messing around at that point. I ended up leaving pretty early. I remember leaving early and thinking like, okay, I understand I'm not gonna get the players I want, but I expected it to fill out my roster. I ended up with like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Tom Brady, and like another quarterback. I had like 4 or 5 quarterbacks. And I was like, you know what? I deserve this, but also damn. The funniest part was like someone associated with the Kings Classic like wrote a recap article, and like someone sent it to me. This person was like, Ian spent $70 on Ezekiel Elliott, and the whole room just gasps. And I'm just yeah, people. I don't know what to tell you.
The way that you were driving people up though got me so weak, because there are certain people that were not going to hop off, like they were not going to get off their guy, and you would just throw something out there just to mess with them.
Rich, it was funny when Rich Rebar came in. He was like, "Damn, that other room's like going to church, and then here we got people yelling and laughing."
Dude, it was a good time. It was really a good time. I enjoyed like the whole entire concept. Bob Long did an excellent job with the Expo, but we're done with the Expo, and we got preseason going on. We got a few different things happening right now. So you ready to hop into the show?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. Ooh, where are we? There.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Chase Vernon.
What's going on, guys? Welcome on into another episode of Fantasy Intervention. Man, I am stoked. I'm stoked because I was sitting there and, Phil had some personal stuff he had to take care of, who's my co-host. And, I was like, damn, I'm going to have to do this show again by myself. But no, the savior came in, the one, the only. Ian Hartitz came in and decided to run the show with me. What's going on, Ian? How you doing tonight?
What's up, man? Yeah, it's tricky doing the solo pods. I had someone, I don't think it was you, but someone reached out to me and said that they had to do a solo pod recently. And they were like, yeah, sorry, man. Apparently they gave me shit at some point about talking too fast with the solo pod. And they're like, yeah, I tried it myself and it's actually pretty hard. And I was like, yeah, man, it most definitely is, particularly on a podcast where you don't get the 12-minute breaks like on radio. But good to be back, man. It was good meeting you at the expo, and I'm just happy we got some live football going, man. Like these preseason games, as drudgingly as they can get sometimes. Hey, man, I'm seeing people named Felipe Franks, running 50, 60 yards downfield. Like it's
hurdling
still something.
Guys.
Exactly, man. It could be a lot worse. I spent my entire Sunday and Monday rewatching these games, and I remember waking up on Monday like, all right, I gotta watch, I think it was 9 preseason games today, and I was like, hey, life could be a lot worse.
Dude, it's really not that bad. Like, I actually enjoy it for the most part. I mean, when was the last time you saw a quarterback hurdle a guy that wasn't named Donovan McNabb or Josh Allen? I mean, that just doesn't happen that often. So, the preseason, I kind of consider it like the college all-star game without the top-end all-stars essentially playing. These guys are playing for their jobs, they're playing for their livelihood, and so it makes for some more competitive games that people don't see coming. But, there's also some implications to it, which we're going to get into here in a little bit. With that being said, solo shows, they suck. Prior to me coming over to Twitter, I was doing 3 solo shows a week that were an hour-long piece. Yeah, I did that for 8 months, and I'm so glad that I don't have to go back to that.
Your voice is probably like, screw you, man. You got to be drinking that honey if that's going to be the case.
So I had to do a solo show back 2 weeks ago, and it was the first time I've done one in forever. Dude, I couldn't breathe by the end. I went through 3 bottles of water. It was brutal. It was brutal. But no, let's go ahead and kick this show off. What's going on, Husker? How you doing, man? We got some different things coming at you. We got some breaking news, of course, that, we're going to debut some of the things that, are hot and heavy right now on Twitter, on Facebook, on the gram, the things that everybody's talking about. I don't want to spend too much time on that, though, because we do have a preseason breakdown I want to get to with some of the quarterback battles that are happening right now. We have Bentley yelling into the chat. And then, the last but not least, my favorite part of the show, where we actually get to take a little piece of what you actually, bring to the table for PFF or to Twitter or whatever it is. And we kind of integrate it into our own thing. So I actually have the Sheesh Awards tonight, where we're going to discuss some of the things that make you say sheesh throughout the preseason, which we'll get to. I'm very excited about that one. So with that being said, let's start out with, the news that broke this morning with Sony Michel going to the Rams. Did you predict that first off? And how you feeling about it?
No, I did not predict that. I think Field Yates, I think, did. He's hit 2 or 3 of these freaking things. Like that dude, of course, he actually does have inside sources, so maybe that has something to do with it, but he is on fire lately. Shout out Field. Yeah, man. Hey, we just got to adjust to it and move on. It sucks, but that's fantasy football, man. As someone that's in, it's really devastating if you're in one draft and, you had Darrell Henderson and all that. I'm probably in 40 or 50, including best ball at this point. So for me, it's not that big a deal. I definitely had Henderson in a few drafts. Those teams probably are not looking good, but we just adjust the old ranks and move on, as they say. But yeah, people, this is very bad. This is yet another piece of evidence that Sean McVay does not trust Darrell Henderson as his lead back. He pretty much came out and said that. They like him. They don't think he can stay healthy. He hurt his thumb again, so they went out and got Sony Michel. Now, when they got Sony Michel, it was fair to think, hey, maybe this is just a backup. We thought they were going to add someone if they traded for Sony, despite sending 2 conditional picks. Maybe he's just there to take away from Jake Funk or, Xavier Jones. No, Adam freaking Schefter, not the other guy. Adam Schefter tells us that Sony Michel is there to probably be the lead back. I don't think he will be the lead back. I have a article going up on PFF.com tomorrow where I'm just breaking down my projected snap rates for every single backfield. And I believe I settled on 55-45 in favor of Henderson. Either way, it's not going to be, the 70-80% plus bell cow role we thought we were going to get. And we just need to adjust this information now. So for me, I am now treating Henderson as way more of a, mid-low end RB3. I'm pulling up my ranks right now to see where specifically I got him. Previously, I had him in about that RB17, RB18 line. Now I got him down at RB29. So I'm taking, Josh Jacobs, Damian Harris, Trey Sermon ahead of him. I still think Henderson, as the projected lead back, has, a better case than Zach Moss, AJ Dillon, Rojo, and some of those guys. But it's bad. And, I see people saying like, oh no, it's Sony. He's washed. He sucks. Like, this is good news for Henderson. No, it's not. Like, forget about your priors, assess the new situation, and that's going to tell you that Henderson is much more of an RB3 as opposed to the RB2 he was yesterday.
You know what's kind of like the crazy twist on it is how Sony Michel's been catching balls out of the backfield throughout the preseason. What if Sony Michel ends up being the pass catching back and Henderson plays on first and second downs? I mean, it's not impossible to think of if Sony Michel actually can catch. We just haven't seen it over there for the Patriots. Obviously, with Tom Brady, he doesn't trust young guys in the backfield. So Sony Michel really didn't get too much of a chance, at least on third down opportunities. And then we see, Cam Newton, of course, he's not going to throw to the running back. So he didn't really get a chance there either. I don't think it's going to happen, but it'd be kind of a cool twist on it. But when it comes to like this whole situation, which running back, running back backfield are you more confident in now when it comes to the Patriots and to the Rams? Like, did anybody in the Patriots jump up that much, or did anybody in obviously you have a 12 spot drop for Darrell Henderson, but I mean, did Damian Harris make that big of a jump as to where you're like, okay, you got to roster Damian Harris this year?
I was high-ish on him already. I had him as my RB27. It was funny. Dwayne McFarland, who I have on the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast a lot, we were breaking down some of the preseason takeaways on the Wednesday edition of our pod that just published today. And looking, when I was talking about that, like Sony came in and played with the first team offense when Cam was under center in the Patriots last preseason game. The first week, it was Damian Harris and James White. That was it. That was great. That's what we wanted to see. It's fine if we have a 2 RB backfield. It's when we get to 3 and 4 that we have problems. That's usually the Patriots. So to see them only use 2 was fantastic. They were using Sony a lot last game, throwing him passes and getting him those first team snaps. And I thought we were looking at Sony sliding into that Rex Burkhead role that he was kind of using over the years. So I was prepared to drop him in the ranks when I was going to update him this morning. But because Sony got out of the picture, I didn't have to update anything. So still sitting as the RB27 for me. Here's the thing, though. I mean, I think in standard, it makes way more sense. He's still not someone I'm like drastically going out of my way to get, but that kind of is where, maybe a couple spots ahead. I love my Raheem Mostert this year. I would say Raheem Mostert is where the RB dead zone comes back alive. We always talk about this dead zone, but we don't talk about like when the guys are actually, climbing back up out of their graves. So, from maybe Dobbins or I'd say like from Javonte Williams to like Kareem Hunt, that's like our kind of dead zone at this point. So Damian Harris, I think he's the highest ranked running back out of this whole deal. I do have him about 2 spots ahead of Darrell Henderson at this point. Yeah, it helps. It's not a perfect situation for him. We can still see Ramondre Stevenson or JJ Taylor make this a 3-headed backfield, but at least the one guy that a couple days ago was getting first team snaps is now no longer part of the team. You're on mute, good sir.
Yep, that was my bad. No, so making sure my dog doesn't bark in the background. No, I mean, we've seen in the past how, guys, they've used certain guys in this offense. Like Burkhead was typically used between the 20s, up until the injuries occurred, and then he was used inside the 20s. I feel like in this offense, we're going to see a lot of Harris between the 20s. I'm a little bit concerned that Ramondre Stevenson will take some goal line work, but it's not like, I'm not overly concerned about it. I think that he kind of shed a big time ball and chain when it comes to Sony Michel, taking away work inside the 20s this upcoming season. So I do like Damian Harris a lot. As for the injury to Travis Etienne, he's obviously out for the season now. Where do you feel comfortable like drafting Robinson? Because I mean, Robinson was one of the dead zone running backs previously, correct?
Oh yeah, I wasn't touching it. Robinson was my single biggest fade at the entire running back position going to this, because for me, it was like, maybe he holds on to the early down role, but we were already seeing, and we still are seeing, Carlos Hyde splitting that up a little bit. And never understood the reality of drafting a running back in the first round to use him as anything other than your starting running back. ETN, even if Urban Meyer calls him slash, like when the guy was out there, he was not playing that slash role. Maybe Urban's waiting to pull a fast one on everyone in week 1, but that was kind of my stance on Robinson before. But with ETN now in the picture, unfortunately, I think Hyde is still going to make this more annoying than people would prefer. The reason why James Robinson was so great last year was because before he got hurt, only Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry had more touches.
It's
like
insane.
It's hilarious how people like critique, like how is Saquon going to run behind that line? And, Joe Mixon, like how can you trust him? Like, how do you think James Robinson was that good last year? Do you just think that this undrafted guy was like the best talent that the running back position has seen in years? I'm not even trying to shit on James Robinson. He's a very good running back. He does everything very well, but like he's not this generational talent. Like he overcame that awful situation last year because of pure volume, just like Leonard Fournette basically did 2 years before that. So, or it was a year before that, basically, we only scored the 3 touchdowns. So Robinson for me slides in RB 18. I'm still taking Montgomery, Swift, Chris Carson ahead of him. Those are kind of the guys in that similar tier. But I think at this point, man, like more and more, like that's why I think originally that dead zone almost started like RB 15, but I think with how unsure we are with a lot of these guys in the RB 20s now, it might make more sense to kind of push back with that initial top 14, top 15 guys we feel good about and start including Montgomery and James Robinson and even DeAndre Swift if that groin issue can get fixed. Maybe start including those guys in it. So James Robinson, RB 18, I think he'll be good, man, because he's getting all the targets now, which is great. The thing is, like, this is still an offense that I'm not gonna. Some people were saying like the offense is gonna be way better than last year. Like, I'd hope so, but I still wouldn't necessarily guarantee them to be this, above average scoring offense. I believe in Trevor Lawrence long term, but we've seen a lot of great quarterbacks just not be world beaters, at least in their rookie season. So James Robinson, I wouldn't be drafting him necessarily in the first. If I can give him around 4, round 5, I'd feel great about it. I'm not reaching on him early round 3. I'd probably be taking Kittle, Waller, or just like a lot of these other running backs at that point, I'm taking, the top 12 wide receiver that's still on the board.
I think a lot of these players that are, or these fantasy players that are drafting right now, right? They still are going to see like residual, leftovers from James Robinson and his ADP, right? It's going to take a minute for it to get back up to where it should be. So I think he's, going to be somewhat of value throughout the upcoming week or so. But the biggest thing that I looked at, when I was doing my DFS article was, Darrell Bevell and Urban Meyer, right? They've always had really good defenses that they played for outside of Darrell Bevell with the Lions this past year or past 2 years, whatever it was. They've always had really good defenses for the most part. And so they've been able to rely on the run a lot. They've been able to, let the defense do their thing, and they've been able to kind of grind it out. Like neither one of them have been in an offense that was like, top in passing attempts. Obviously, Darrell Bevell has been with Russell Wilson. They've had the, Legion of Boom. And then we have Urban Meyer, who, he is what it is. Like he always has these great defenses that end up shutting teams down. So they've never had to pass. However, they become hyper efficient when they pass. And meanwhile, the running backs, they lose a little bit of efficiency, but the volume goes through the roof. And we saw an 85% snap share last year from James Robinson. We could easily see the same thing this year if Carlos Hyde doesn't damper it too much. But there's always that possibility because Hyde is becoming like almost like the next Frank Gore. He's just way younger as to where he just goes to places to ruin people's fantasy values. And it becomes a little bit tough. So I do think that James Robinson will end up getting these touches. And I think that, the system will allow it. But it's going to be very, very difficult to predict this system until probably the 4th or 5th week of this season because they don't have a good defense anyways.
That's how a lot of these are, man. Like even like the Myles Gaskin situation in Miami. Like someone was DMing me and asking about, is Gaskin back in my good graces after last week? And I was like, no. I mean, it's a evolving committee week to week right now. I certainly don't think he's going to go out there and be the all-encompassing bell cow in that offense like we did a couple weeks ago. Could that happen? Absolutely. And just like we did today with Henderson and Michelle, we'll adjust them, which is based on everything we've now seen. And, I am taking first team preseason starter snaps seriously. I'm treating those higher than I am these depth charts that a bunch of interns put together a couple weeks ago. And I'm taking it more seriously than what the role was last year in a completely different offense with different players. So for me, we just got to do the best information we got. And when week 1 passes, we'll take all that and move along. I've spent half this offseason talking about how bad I think Sam Darnold is going to be with the Carolina Panthers. But if he's great, I can't just cling to that idea and see what's what. We'll adjust and get better.
No, that sounds, exactly what I was going with. One of my favorite moments of Canton was sitting next to you and you realizing that Malcolm Brown was getting the starting reps with the
I
first
was
team
messed up,
offense.
man.
You were like, Twitter's about to explode right now over Cassian's not getting the first team reps.
It did.
Yeah, it was funny. All right, so I know that we have to make it a shorter night tonight, so I'm going to try and hurry through these quarterback battles that we have, and then we'll try and get onto your awards. So let's start out with the quarterback, competitions that we have going on with, in New England, right? Because we just saw a bunch of, news coming out that Mac Jones, based off the Patriots, reporters, blah, 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 but it was really only one guy who was, saying that. But these are the two quarterbacks, according to PFF, that actually have the highest grade in preseason, as of week 2. So if we sit there and we dissect these two, like which one do you want to be the starter this upcoming season? Which one do you think is going to be the starter?
Oh, I want Mac Jones. I think it will be Mac Jones. And I mean, at this point with the whole Cam COVID situation, it's unfortunate. That's the way it worked out for him. But man, it is what it is. And I thought they would go to Mac sooner rather than later anyway. I feel that way about Trey Lance, Justin Fields. I mean, all these guys, because when you draft a quarterback that different from your starter, I just don't know what benefit you have to really leave him on the bench because you're going to have to change the whole offense the second they get in there. With the 49ers had taken Mac Jones like we thought they were going to, and it just been Jimmy G and Mac. That I could see lasting for an entire year because they're very similar style players, just they're not, these dual threat type guys. So with that in mind, I do think he'll win the job sooner rather than later. I think it's better for us because it's similar to, Taysom Hill, Lamar Jackson to an extent. Josh Allen throws more. Jalen Hurts a little bit. These high-end dual threat quarterbacks like Cam that run, 100+ times a year, they just kind of sap the fantasy football value out of everyone else in the offense. Inside the goal line, they're another potential rusher that can go in. They're scrambling instead of throwing. Usually ends up being a run-first offense that doesn't help the wide receivers, and the quarterback's taking a decent chunk of the rushing pie as well. So if we can get Mac there, all of a sudden, Nelson Aguilar and Jacoby Myers we're feeling a little bit better about because seemingly maybe a little more volume from a quarterback that should be able to put the ball on him maybe a little better than, 2020 edition of Cam was able to. Henry, Jonnu, their stocks get boosted. Damian Harris will be the biggest winner from this entire thing. I mean, Cam Newton last year, man, the goal line rushing was absolutely absurd. Yeah. They did already say, I think Cam came out in an interview and said he's not going to be like that battering ram guy anymore. But last year, Cam had 19 carries inside the 5-yard line. Dalvin Cook, Zeke, and Kenyon Drake have more. That's it. 4th in the freaking league in goal line attempts. And if those go to Damian Harris, man, 10 touchdowns is, on the table.
He was on pace to break the quarterback rushing record, I believe, at one point up until like the final few weeks of the season. And I think that's when he got COVID and got pulled out. But he was on pace to crush it by 4 or 5 touchdowns. If we have the worst 2 quarterbacks who are in a starting competition, right, that would be Jimmy G and Lance, who you just brought up. Which one wins the quarterback battle? And do you want one to win the quarterback battle over another?
So I think Lance gets there eventually. Jimmy G's stupid freaking smirk he had going on today. I'm not sure he gets there by week 1. Honestly, we just need Lance to win this job by week 10, because if you look at the 49ers ending schedule, oh my goodness, man. What I've been preaching throughout the offseason is if you get Fields or Lance, just get Kirk Cousins as well, because he's going to be free at the end of drafts. And the Vikings' first 7 games are absolutely spectacular. It is absolutely sick. But, and I barked about that enough. I'm sure people have seen it at some point. Trey Lance, though, final 7 games: Jaguars, Vikings, Seahawks, Bengals, Falcons, Titans, and Texans on Championship Sunday. Maybe the Vikings have a little bit of a bounce back here. Otherwise, those are 6 cake defenses. We just need Trey Lance at that point. And that's why I've continued to rank him high. If you're entering the Fantasy Pros draft competition and you want to win a rankings competition, you need to rank Trevor Lawrence ahead of Trey Lance. Who do we want on our team, though, when they're both under center? It's going to be Trey Lance for that rushing upside. So that's why I think some people need to better separate. You want your rankings to be accurate, and that's fine, but you're also encouraged to really not take stands on guys. You want to rank James White as your RB30 every single week because he's going to end up finishing around there, even though he's never going to give you meaningful spike weeks. So not to shit on everyone that does these ranking competitions. I just think we could do a better job of, looking at someone's season-long fantasy projection and someone that, hey, when they're on the field, we want to use them. What are they going to give us? Because we always talk, man. It's like whenever someone uses a full season, like if I said, Kenyon Drake was the PPR RB12 last year. full season stats. And your first thing would be like, well, what are you using full season for? We only care about per game. Absolutely, we only care about per game. So that's what we should be looking at for the upcoming season as well.
So a little bit off topic here, but Ryan Fitzpatrick, have you caught the end of the Washington football team's schedule?
Oh, is that good too?
They have 5 consecutive games. They close out the season 5 consecutive games up against NFC East opponents.
So are the Giants?
I've never seen that before. The Giants are 2 of them.
Weird.
Yeah, it's literally 5 consecutive games up against NFC East opponents.
Giants week 18. Giants D, man. I think Giants D is actually good. They were already good last year somehow, even with Daniel Jones, doing his best to screw that up in the clapper as well. But they got James Bradbury and Adoree Jackson now, man. That's one of the better 1-2 cornerback punches in the league. So we can make fun of Jason and Daniel all we want, but that Giants D might be.
It's going to be a lot better. It's going to be significantly improved, but you still have the Cowboys, I believe, twice and the Eagles once.
That's great.
That's money. And the Giants, like, it's a division rivalry, so we can throw statistics out the window in most cases, not in all cases, but in most cases you can kind of throw those stats out the window because division rivalries change very frequently. All right, so we have the duo with the highest ADOT for and most dropbacks so far this season. We have Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. Who do you have winning this, and who do you want to win?
I mean, Nagy freaking had to name Dalton the week 1 starter already. I mean, Fields will be out there soon. I just don't. People that are like, oh yeah, like why would you start Justin Fields in week 1? They're playing the Rams. Like, okay, so are we gonna not start Fields week 1? We'll play him weeks 2 and 3 we'll play him week 2 against the Bengals, but Myles Garrett's on the Browns, so we don't want to play Justin Fields then. We'll put him back in against the Lions, Raiders, and Packers, and then pull him against the Buccaneers, 49ers, Steelers, Ravens. Like, I don't get that line of reasoning for this. Start the best damn quarterback in week 1. That's Justin Fields.
They don't want to get him killed, man. They don't want to get him killed. But Fields will be starting halfway through the 3rd game. He'll come in at halftime up against the Browns, and that way he'll be walking the Detroit Lions as a starter.
Great. And then he gets the Buccaneers, the freaking 49ers, the Steelers, and the Ravens in 4 straight games.
It's so bad. It's so
bad. A couple
bad.
Weeks after. Like, he's
it's
just
so
needs
bad.
to learn at some point. We can't. Aaron Donald is the most terrifying guy in the National Football League. I get that. Justin Fields also spent 2 years playing across from Chase Young every day. Like, this is a big boy, man. He doesn't need to be shielded like this. I saw the hit that he took, but like, that's the NFL. And saying that he's in more chance of like getting hurt against the Rams versus like even the Lions, like, come on. Like, it's the most like just narrator views thing ever. I still can't even wrap my brain around it. Hopefully he is out there by that Lions game. This is what I'm worried about though, man, because Dalton, I doubt if he sucks in week 1, he needs to be atrocious. Cause I really would think the leash is longer than 1 game. Like, is Nagy really going to go through all this and bench him after 1 game?
Not against the Bengals.
It could, yeah. That's my point, though, man. Then we get the Bengals. Browns D should be better. If he can survive that, though.
Halftime of that game.
If he can halftime of that game,
dude.
When did
Trubisky get benched last year? Trubisky got benched at halftime of week 3, and Trubisky had a 2-0 record at the time, right?
Do you remember the best one was? Oh my God, what was his name? Tom Savage started the first half against one of the best defenses in the league in Jacksonville, and Bill O'Brien was like, "I've seen enough. Deshaun, get out there."
Dude, that would be amazing if Justin Fields comes in at halftime of the
I think
first
Fields
game.
will be under center by the time September's over. So that does line up with your theory here. I like it. Browns at halftime. Let's ride with that. I like that.
All right. So, we could talk about the other two, but I really want to get onto these Sheesh Awards, and I know, we have a little bit limited time here. You got about 5-10 minutes to go through the Sheesh Awards. All right, let's do this. Yes. So, it's time for some sheesh. What is sheesh to you? Like, when you say sheesh, right? When you're talking about a player or something that happens, what does that mean to you? Like, what does the sheesh infer?
Wow. Well, sheesh has a lot of different meanings. First time I really heard it, it was when LeBron was just, Instagramming all of his drunken wine hangovers, and he just ended with like, sheesh, look at all these bottles I drank, sheesh. So my friends and I started calling red wine sheesh. So that's one use. Sheesh can also be like, wow, what a play, like sheesh. But it can also be like, man, bad play, sheesh. So the way I usually use it on Twitter, at least, is either talking about the wine or sheesh alerts, which during the year, again, I do go back and watch every single game. I'm, not this O-line, just master or guru or anything. What I'm trying to really look for are stuff that doesn't show up in the box score. Henry Ruggs wide open downfield. Derek Carr misses him by 10 yards. Like, that's important to me. I don't want to be the guy that says like this wide receiver had a bad game because he had 20 yards. When if you watch the game, you would see that he was, badly overthrown 3 times. Nullified touchdowns, like Gabriel Davis had like 3 of them last year. I know sometimes it doesn't happen without the hold, and I'll note that. But, in general, I think just being able to, again, pick up on those things that aren't, right on your fingertips in the box score, it just helps always, and I see some people in our community try to be like, oh, like watching the games is like actually bad, ill, like influence your opinions wrong. That's just a lazy excuse. Just like the guys that say that, I only need to watch the film. I don't look at the numbers. It's all information, and watching the film helps you pick out the best numbers. So it's a big, one big happy circle of film and analytics. Maybe one day our little community here can get there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I call it applying the numbers, right? Like you apply I like looking at stats first, and then I want to see if what I'm looking, or if, what I read and the numbers that I compile are accurate and indicative of what happened in the game. So I go back and I watch it, but Darnell Mooney's probably the best example of that, who got overthrown by Nick Foles on multiple different occasions when he was wide open, and it should have been a completed pass. But Nick Foles overthrew him, underthrew him, threw it way out of bounds on one play where it was like, dude, what are you doing? Had him wide open. So I think that, the numbers are typically indicative of the games, but they're not always indicative. So, when you see that one play, you're just like, sheesh, like this needs to be known. So
exactly.
Who is the biggest preseason sheesh for you? Like good, bad, anything like that? Like you see this player and you're like, sheesh, like this needs to be recognized.
I'd say Zach Wilson, man. I'm really happy how good he's looked. And he was someone where, I said if any one of these first-round quarterbacks was going to be a bust, I would have picked Zach. Not because I thought he was necessarily going to be, but just gun to your head, you need to pick someone. I would have picked Zach. I think a lot of people are on that same page. That's why he's been going like outside the top 25 quarterbacks all off season. And it lined up easy enough. This was a guy that didn't face stiff competition at BYU. He had a, offensive line full of like 30-year-old Mormons. And he was just out there pulling off these crazy plays that, we see Mahomes do, but we also, got to realize the level of competition Wilson is playing against. And for him to only really play at that high of a level for 1 year, I thought it was fair to have concerns. But I've learned after having Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, Justin Herbert. Daniel Jones was actually okay in fantasy as a rookie, but all these guys were written off the second they got drafted. So I was like, I'm done doing this with any of these guys. Let's see them play against NFL defenses. In that Packers game, man, I know it was still some backup defenders, but like I'm happy Zach Wilson played. I'm happy he played great against the backup defenders and not shitty. So at least we don't have to have that conversation. But just a couple of the throws, man. One of them, he was going to his left and he basically reversed field and just threw a laser to Corey Davis, 30 yards downfield. The touchdown to
Tyler Kroft.
Tyler Kroft, not unfortunately not Chris Herndon, but man, that ball placement, the way he led him away from the safety,
so sexy,
absolutely beautiful. So with Wilson, man, and seeing Corey Davis get targeted every route he's out there, man, oh man, or should I say sheesh, oh sheesh, like we can get Zach, Corey Davis, and Elijah Moore dirt cheap still. And hey, if you're still out there in those, best ball streets, I think that's one of the hottest stacks you could make there in the later rounds.
Zach Wilson, I think, can actually be a league winner, right? Like I think that Zach Wilson can actually be that go-to guy. And, you probably got that championship belt last year, right? The one from trophies, dude, the Kings belt, like that. I saw that belt. I didn't realize how heavy that belt was.
That's a big sucker, man.
Dude, do you have it anywhere near you? I know you're unpacking, so you probably don't. But
it's in the room. Do you see the picture I drew of my grandma with it?
No, I missed that. That's awesome. Was you able to pick it up, or did you have to put it on her shoulder?
Well, that's what was funny. Like I went from Canton to Cleveland. It's like an hour away, and my grandparents are there, and she was outside, and she's like freaking 90. Like she was outside just watering the flowers, and I actually call her Oma because we're German, and I was like, "Oh, Oma, like come look at this belt real quick." I was just gonna show it to her, and she takes it and throws it on her shoulder, and is like walking around.
Dude, that thing's like 45 pounds or something.
I know. I was like, "Oh, that thing weighs half your freaking size. Like, what are you doing?" But no, it's a good time. Yeah. You say a trophy stop? Is that who made it?
Trophy Smack. Yeah.
Hey, 10 out of 10 for me, man. That shit was legit. And we did a bulk order, I think, because like the past champions were able to apply for it. So it was $100 each, man. Hey, I lose $100 on a regular UFC card trying to bet on whatever's going on. So at least that one gets to stay in my mantle for a while.
Well, that's the funny part about it is we actually just picked up Trophy Smack today as one of our sponsors, right? So trophysmack.com, right? They got
what a
these
lead in.
trophies.
What a lead in. Let's go.
They got these trophies that are like 3 or 4 feet tall. Like they're insane. You can get one like fish bowls on it. You can get one with like bobbleheads on it. It is sick, man. You guys got to go check out trophysmack.com. I mean, you heard it. Ian didn't even know. He had no idea. That was not on the show sheet. I was completely setting him up, and he literally vouched for the company without even knowing that he was vouching for it. Go check out trophysmack.com. While you're there, go enter in promo code CIRCLE. Once again, that's promo code CIRCLE. You will get a free ring valued at $60. So go check out trophysmack.com. Go enter in the promo code CIRCLE to get your free ring along with it. You guys can also go check it out. It's in the comments on Twitter. It's in the description on YouTube. If you just click on the link, once again, trophysmack.com, go get yourself a belt. Go show off your abilities to dominate your league. Let's go. All right, so let's go ahead and hop on to the next Sheesh Award. And that's the increased volume. Oh, no. Wait. We got the most likely coach to make you say sheesh for this upcoming season. Who is it and what does he do?
Probably Ron Rivera, man, from that first preseason game where he was like punting it on 4th and 1 from the opposite 40. Like, I try to not tweet about those as much because it's one of those things where like, I think because of how easy it is. Not that all time management stuff is easy, but in terms of all the responsibilities a head coach has, I think the casual viewer can most feasibly go like, tit for tat with them with clock management stuff. That's something that, our mom and dad can tell, like, why didn't you call a timeout there? Like, a casual football fan can know when someone messes up in a situation like this. So I think even, the Adam Gases of the world have more football knowledge and like they're little finger than any of us probably will ever. So with all that said, how the hell are you nicknamed Riverboat Ron and you're freaking punting it from the other team's 40 with 1 yard to freaking go, man? So that pisses me off.
And you have Fitzpatrick on your team as well. Like you would think that he'd always be going for it at that point.
But like, yeah, what's the point? Let's get more reps out there. Is a punt really more valuable than like a short yardage 4th and 1 situation? And some people are like, they don't want to show their hand. Please, we got 17 regular season games coming up. Like, just to not even give your offense a chance out there doesn't make any sense to me. You really need more practice punting. The guy that does the same thing every single time he's on the freaking field, that's the guy that needs more practice. The semi-pro soccer player that doesn't even hang out with the team half the week, that's the guy you want to really feature. Like, come on.
It was the coverage team. They're working on the coverage team, bro. At the 40. Question mark. All right, so the next Sheesh Award is going to be the increased volume Sheesh Award. I have some recommendations. I don't know if you want me to read through them real quick. Actually, I'll just read through them. I'll blaze them real quick. We have Gibson, 17 touches on 24 snaps, 2 at the wide receiver position. We have Corey Davis, 10 targets on 13 routes. We have A.J. Dillon, 8 touches on 13 snaps, 3 receptions on 5 routes. Laviska Shenault, 11 targets on 27 routes with a 40.1% target share on routes run. You have Tony Jones, 8 targets on 21 routes. You have Ertz, 3 targets on 5 routes run. You have Tutu Atwell, who had the 3rd most routes run in the preseason with a 27.6% target share on those routes run. I don't know how he's survived so far in the league running that many routes, but he has. I think it's like 54 routes so far, 50 routes, something along those lines. So who is your increased volume sheesh? Is it one of these guys? Or do you have another one on your docket?
You named a lot of the good ones, but I do have one other one people should be taking note of. Chuba Hubbard, 27 of 28 first-team snaps so far. If McCaffrey goes down again, Chuba might have more than the Mike Davis role was last year. That's what this is even looking like, man, because Chuba coming in, I had some concerns about how good of a pass catcher he was. You looked at him at Oklahoma State, and he had some yardage, but just so much of it was screens. I didn't know. Well, now we know the Panthers don't care about that, so I'm done caring about that. I mean, that's the thing with all this stuff. I see people like really trying to debate, going back to Henderson, Michelle, like they're trying to figure out like who they think is the better running back. It doesn't really matter what we think. If we can be really smart and make good educated guesses, that'll get us, in a better spot more times than not. But ultimately, it matters what these teams think. And the Carolina Panthers consider Chuba the undisputed number 2 running back to Christian McCaffrey. So he's someone, Chuba, that I've been, definitely moving up the ranks and getting him right there in kind of that Darrington Evans tier of like, hey, when you're in the 16th through 18th round of these drafts, like be scooping these guys up, man. One of my big takeaways in my, I think like 10 fantasy tips piece was I was like, don't draft kickers and defenses if you don't have to, because you can draft someone like Chuba Hubbard, Darrington Evans, God forbid something happens to CMC or Derrick Henry, and all of a sudden you got a guy that would probably be going in the third round of a draft if he did it again. So, we had that one tweet go out that said Christian McCaffrey like fell down in practice and everyone freaked out. We're that close, man. And Chuba Hubbard would be the next guy to step up. So
I don't think it's going to be that big of a decrease either, to be honest with you. But go ahead.
Yeah, you mean from Mike to
No,
Chuba?
I'm just kidding. No.
I was like, hold on. Well, I've needed to fight the good fight on Mike Davis. A lot of people just slander him for something. David Montgomery gets that too. I don't know why these guys, you show them these great like force missed tackle stats, and they're like, yeah, because they can't break the big one. Then they break the big one. They're like, well, the hole was there. It's, what are we doing here? So take away every big run and all broke tackles, whatever.
All right. So are you going with Chuba? Is that your winner for the
Yes.
most increased volume? I like that,
Yes.
man. And, actually, I had a question for you that I typed out that I was going to send you about Chuba Hubbard and PFF, just because I wasn't sure exactly, what was going on. He's one of the lowest ranked preseason running backs on the season so far for the rushing ability. But, he has a ton of breakaway runs. He also has the one fumble. He had the one rough game. So I just wasn't sure exactly how that balanced out. But we'll talk about that another time.
I don't care as much about the performance. I mean, it does matter. Like Marquez Callaway, when he's doing that against Shaq Griffin and like legit number one corners, that sticks out to me. But it's just more about the usage than anything.
Yeah, okay. I like that. All right, so let's go to the most disappointing sheesh of the offseason. We have Colin Johnson, 37 routes run as the primary receiver, only 3 targets. One was a touchdown, but still, that's not promising, with him being the primary receiver on most of these routes. Adam Humphries, only 1 catch on 5 targets after all the hype we heard out of the preseason camp that Fitzpatrick and him were connecting. They're not connecting right now. Fitzpatrick and him are not on the same page after the game film that I went back and watched. Brandon Cooks, 2 receptions. They only went for 5 yards apiece. We expect big plays out of Brandon Cooks. Is that a disappointment that we only see him at 5 yards apiece? We have Juju Smith-Schuster, who's sitting there at 80.6% of his snaps in the slot after hearing that he was going to play on the outside. He talked to the coaching staff. They're going to move him to the outside way more often. He gets 80% of his snaps in the slot with only a 7.6 yards per reception. It's a bummer. Terry McLaurin is somebody that's a little bit surprising for me. 3 receptions on 21 routes, but he's been open on multiple different plays. Once again, I went back and watched the film, and he's open time and time again, but it's like Fitzpatrick isn't even looking at him. So I think that's a concern. We have J.K. Dobbins with 1.1 yards per attempt. David Johnson has been non-existent, which, could be a good thing for him in preseason, to be honest with you. And then Devine Ezigbo, they've been attempting to use him as a pass catcher. He only has 2 catches on 7 targets. 2 of them are drops as well. He did take 1 to the house, or 1 for 30 yards, but outside of that, they need a pass catcher, obviously, unless it's going to be James Robinson over there for the Jags. And then, but last but not least, wait for it, Travis Kelce, 25 routes run with only 2 targets so far in the preseason. Which one concerns you most, or do you have another player on your docket?
None, really, man. I just don't care as much about the performance. Unless you're putting the ball down, is leading to actively decrease usage. It just doesn't really matter to me, man. I enjoy seeing the big plays and stuff, but like, what, we're gonna fade Travis Kelce because he's not getting targeted enough in the preseason? Like, this is why people will occasionally make fun of grinders like us who are studying at the preseason, because it just doesn't matter. Again,
it's not Noah Gray season.
I want the first team snaps because we are getting the first team snaps in place of the damn intern depth charts that were put together. But based on just, this guy had a good run, this guy isn't getting targeted. Like, Terry McLaurin's going to see 130 plus targets this year, and they're going to be beautiful. Like, trust me on that. So someone that's really disappointed. I was pissed that N'Keal Harry dropped that gorgeous bomb from Mac Jones.
It was so pretty.
Mac Jones, he apparently had himself a hell of a practice today too. That dude, if you want to talk about just good performance, we'll stay positive with it. He is like number 1 in every single PFF passing grade, like under pressure, kept clean. The only thing he's number 2 on is like deep balls, and that's because Jameis is becoming a freaking savant there. So good on Jameis and good on Mac Jones, man. Hopefully he, takes that job. I know we were talking about that earlier. So I would say I'm most pissed at N'Keal Harry dropping that, again, just gorgeous, like 55-yard rainbow from Mac Jones. And some people are like trying to defend N'Keal, and they're like, oh, he kind of had to die for it. Hits both your hands. You're a professional receiver.
You catch
the
it.
ball.
Yeah. And, he came down on it, but it is what it is. That's just part of the game. So last time you were on the show, we did Remember the Titans theme, and we're going to close it out with Remember the Titans theme. We're going to go with your Gary Bertier award, because last time that you were on the show, right, there was a stat that shocked us both. I think I went on there and it showed that he had 52 sacks or something like that in one season, right? Or 72 sacks. It was something insane. It was a number that none of us could even dream of hitting. Like, players don't hit it over the course of 5 seasons, much less one season. You had 52 or 72 sacks, something like that. So is there a stat or a play or a player, right? It could be, I'm not going to lead to anything because I don't want to get too ahead of it, but is there a play that just made you say, sheesh?
And we're talking Remember the Titans?
No, I'm talking about your, any play in the preseason so far. I mean, we could do Remember the Titans, but we're going to call this a Gary Bertier award because you just sit back and you're like, sheesh, that's crazy.
Favorite place? It was probably the Felipe Franks run. Did you see that shit? The Falcons, third string, maybe second string now that McLaren's out for the year. Yeah, man. This dude,
I don't know. They signed Rosen.
Oh man, literally takes off and runs 55 yards. His name is Felipe Franks. What more could you want out of this dude? But now that play was definitely sheesh worthy for me. I had I think I tweeted out a video earlier. I'm trying to think.
I can't believe that you're not going with the Auden Tate one.
Oh my god, I can't believe I'm not either. Bro, the Auden Tate real life storyline is passing up my kind of tongue in cheek funny one. He is apparently maybe actually going to split snaps with Jamar Chase. I couldn't have even imagined that in my wildest dreams. And for that to be happening, man, I am pumped. JJ Taylor had a 6-spin move against the Eagles. I'm just looking through my tweets and seeing what I've sent out right now to try and remember it. But the Auden Tate catch. I just loved it too because I think I was at dinner and I just pulled up Twitter real quick and I had 6 ats and I was like, what the hell happened? And it was a minute ago. And I'm just happy that, everyone now thinks of me when they see Auden Tate. Just go about his business, making great catches day in, day out. Would also say for all you, BMI experts still holding out on Devontae Smith, when guys can't stay within 5 yards of him because his route running is that good.
You're going to worry about it.
And we saw that with that pretty ass pivot route he put on the poor Patriots corner. So fun one too.
Multiple different occasions. Hey, I appreciate you staying on a little bit later than what we planned on. Thanks for coming on in the first place. Let everybody know where to find you real quick. If they don't already know, which they probably do, but go ahead and let everybody know.
PFF.com, the PFS Fantasy Football Podcast at Hartitz on Twitter. Great day to be great. I'm just doing this stuff every day in, day out. Make hard work a habit. Grind. I'm just happy to see week 1 coming forward. We got one more week of preseason. I'll grind through that. But afterwards, man, short break and then the longest regular season ever. But it's just more football, man. So I'm pumped. Appreciate you having me on. Good talking to you as always, man.
Dude, I absolutely love it, man. You're one of my favorite analysts in the game, one of my favorite Twitter followers as well. Somehow you're always up on my timeline, but it makes sense because you're constantly grinding, you're constantly putting content out there. So I appreciate you doing that as well. You guys can go check out all of our content over there at fantasyintervention.com. You guys can check out our stuff on Twitter at joinourcircle_. You guys can find me on Twitter at ff_intervention or ff_intervention. Yeah. And then you guys can go check out our stuff at youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Once again, that's youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.